everyone. This is Tamara from shelfaddiction.com, and welcome to episode 104. Thank you for joining me for another book chat episode. Tonight, one of the many talented featured authors at Rust City BookCon 2017, Jillian David, joins me to share about her popular series Hell to Pay and her spin-off series Hell's Valley. Jillian lives near the end of the earth with her nut of a husband and two bossy cats. To escape the sometimes stressful world of the rural physician, she writes while on call and in her free time. Check out the coordinating blog post below to learn more about Jillian's books. And while you're there, read an excerpt of her latest title, Legacy Lost. We'll also talk a little bit about Rust City BookCon taking place this upcoming August in Metro Detroit. If you want to learn more about Rust City BookCon, the link is below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and share it. Show your support by rating the podcast and leaving a positive review on iTunes. The podcast can also be found on the Spreaker app, YouTube, Google Play Music, the Stitcher app, and more. If you'd like to email in feedback or questions, feel free to reach out to me at info@shelfaddiction.com or leave a call-in internet voice message on SpeakPipe. I look forward to hearing from you. The link is below in the show notes. Hey, Jillian, thank you for joining me today. How have you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yay, I'm glad you're here. So how are you on this wonderful day? Is it nice and sunny where you are?
It's a little on the cool side where I am, but not too bad. And it's a day off work, and I'm just kicking back and enjoying myself.
Day off work? I'm so jealous. I wish.
I know. I kind of cherish those days off because it means it's a day for writing, so I get really excited about them.
Oh, for sure. So I was like looking at some of your Twitter posts.
They're a little all across the board, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's interesting. So you are a MD, huh?
I am.
What kind of medicine? Just general or?
So family medicine with obstetrics. So I work in a very rural area. I always have. This is the town I'm in right now has the most number of stoplights of any town I've lived in at 5. So
wow.
Gives you an idea of the size of places I've lived.
Whoa, small town for real.
Definitely.
Okay, well, I bet that kind of has something to do with your writing environment, you know, the locations of the places in your books, huh?
That's a great point. And it's funny because somebody was asking me to describe like the type, sort of what genre do I write in? And I'm like, well, it's like urban fantasy, except it's all sort of in really small towns or way out in the country. So I'm like, it's rural fantasy. I mean, that's kind of the genre that I tend to write in. I like to see people like way lost in the woods and camping and like dealing with the elements because it just adds this whole other degree of difficulty for everything, including like if they get injured or if somebody needs something, and it makes it really fun.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? Actually, before we jump into that, because I have a couple of questions on your genre. Okay. But before we jump in, I know that you writers read as much as us book nerds. So sure. Would you like to share what you're reading right now? Yeah.
So right now I am reading J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhood, because those are awesome.
They are.
They're
Which book?
Super fun. I am on The King right now. I just started that one. And I'm also reading Holly Trent's, it's the shifter one with the cougars where they're out in like New Mexico. And that's really fun. And I'm sort of a Twitter friend with Holly, and I've just started getting into her books, and they're just as snarky as she is in real life. So it's hilarious.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, you have good reading taste.
I think so.
Awesome. So do you think that there are any books or authors that you think may have influenced your writing style?
Yeah, so I kind of grew up on sci-fi fantasy, and Anne McCaffrey, Robin McKinley, sort of those more, not necessarily romance, although they all sort of had a romantic element to them, kind of got me started. And then I moved into Anne Bishop's The Jewels. Oh, heck, it's like The Jewels, where they have like their sort of witchcraft, and then there's warlocks, and really involved world building. definitely more romance, but definitely a lot edgier and darker. And then obviously now I'm in J.R. Ward, which is like super super dark, and that's kind of the stuff that I enjoy reading. I do enjoy some historical stuff like medieval as well, but it seems like almost everything I'm reading has some element of I don't know, magical realism or sort of paranormal aspect or something like that, and it seems like that's what I gravitate to.
Yeah, that's awesome because I love urban fantasy and paranormal romance. That is my wheelhouse. I cannot get enough. Yeah. I will just devour it. I would eat it like food if I could.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, because, right, the possibilities are endless. I mean, that's the neat thing about it is you can place it anywhere. And so if you like small town romance, that's fine. But then you throw like a demon in there and now things get really interesting. Or you can give somebody a psychic power, or you can have them do weird things or change. And it's nice because there's just not a lot of rules. You can sort of create your own world. And it's super fun.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, what inspired you to start writing to begin with?
So I have always written. So I was actually an English major in college, and I double majored in English and pre-med, obviously. And the joke was like how useless was my major. It was actually a poetry writing major, which my parents were just completely horrified about. And the joke later was like I could write my prescriptions in iambic pentameter, like I could rhyme prescriptions, and wouldn't that be great? So that's what they felt like was the major benefit, out of that horrible degree. In their minds, horrible. And going through medical school, which was 4 years, and then residency and fellowship was another 4 years, and then getting started up in practice, I kind of took that piece, that creative piece that really enjoyed the writing, and sort of put it to sleep, and it kind of stayed dormant for about 12 years. And I didn't touch a pen, so to speak. I didn't do any writing, other than chart notes, and that's not fiction.
Right.
So once life kind of settled down, all of a sudden I had these crazy ideas popping into my head, and just started writing. And that was 7 years ago, maybe more. The first book, first of all, is going to get burned in effigy. Like nobody ever gets to see that book. It was horrible.
Oh no.
It's all right. It's all right. You got to start somewhere.
Right.
It's like the Training Wheels book. And there is one human on this planet that has it, and she could probably blackmail me with it. It's so bad. But I spent a couple years like learning the craft on it.
Yeah.
And then finished it, realized it was horrible. And by then I kind of had some skills to move forward into doing what I'm doing now. And then from there, it's just been awesome. It's just the ideas sort of pop out.
Wow. That's very cool. I mean, that is so unusual to have, someone that has like such a scientific or, type mind that also can be a creative as well. That's very cool.
Yeah. Some days it is a little bit like hitting the gas and the brake at the same time. Mm-hmm. And even when I was in college, like I would go from, calculus to playwriting to biochemistry to restoration literature. And it really was this bizarre like gear shift. And that still happens even now. Like if I'm on call for long blocks of time, I can't do the writing because I'm so focused on the medicine. And then once I finish with my call blocks, then I can change gears completely and just go into the writing.
That's very cool how that works.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the series we're here to talk about today, and that's Hell's Valley, right?
It is.
All right. So tell me a little bit about this series overall.
So to talk about that, I need to talk just for a second about the very first series, Hell to Pay. Hell to Pay is the first full series. It's 3 books and a prequel novella out with Crimson Romance. And essentially at the core of that is the question, what would happen if you literally made a deal with the devil? And so the tormented characters are people who like hundreds of years ago made big sacrifices for somebody that they loved. And it's sort of, they have to now be indebted to Satan and kind of go through that. In that series, there are a couple of characters who have some peculiar additional traits. And it's based on those extra traits that I was able to dovetail Hell's Valley off of it. So it's really interesting. Readers who have read the first series of Hell to Pay will find kind of Easter eggs in Hell's Valley. And like, it's great because I get these emails from my readers that are like, oh, I can't believe the connection. Like, they just figured it out. Like on book 2, they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe so-and-so is there, kind of thing. So it's really fun for me to have sort of braided that back in a little bit. But then readers who have never read the first series, it's okay too, because it's not so tied that you have to read it. And so Hell's Valley is, well, it's Western paranormal, which again, I don't think is like a real genre, but it is now. And
yeah, like I noticed that. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think I've ever seen that pairing together before.
I had so much fun with it. Well, I just don't, like, I'm not really big into big cities, and I love ranches and Western stuff. And then I'm like, what if you had like a sexy rancher in the middle of winter with psychic powers, just playing with that idea. And then having some very loose connections with that first series really helped to generate neat ideas. And so this series is about the Taggart family. The Taggart family is a ranching family in western Wyoming. And they're kind of feuding with a neighboring ranch of the Brand family. And turns out the Brands have a lot more in their arsenal than just guns and knives. They have some evil powers starting to brew over on that ranch. And the series is about how the Taggarts, with their individual strange powers, start to use those to protect the ranch, protect the people they love, and also ultimately kind of overcome that evil. And it's just fun to torment these poor people to get them to that point.
Oh no.
Kind of torture them a little bit. I mean, you can't have it easy, right?
No. So how bad are your bad guys? Like, are they real villains or?
Yeah, my bad guys are really, so I have to tell you this. One of the best compliments that a reader has given me was when they wrote, and I quote, Jillian David can write really good torture scenes. And I was like, I'm kind of proud about that. So, like, the doctor part of me is horrified by it, but the writer part was really happy because, like, somebody got that visceral reaction. And so, I'm pretty tough on my characters. They, nobody comes out unscathed.
You know what? I like that because I'm a realist. I don't know if you've ever listened to my podcast, but I love that when it's real, and especially the payoff is even sweeter when like they've really been through misery. Seriously.
Right. Absolutely. And a lot of the themes too are, pooling resources, working together, whether it's the hero and the heroine or whether it's the family coming together. But it's that idea that, we're stronger as a unit together rather than as individuals. And I kind of like that as sort of a theme for a lot of my books.
Cool. So with this series, do we have to start? Obviously, this is like a continuation from your previous series, but the first one is actually Legacy of Lies. Yeah. So you have to start there, right? You should definitely start there.
I think you should, although I've had a few people read the second book, Legacy Lost, and they felt like it was reasonable as a standalone, and that's kind of how I'm trying to write them, is so they will work as standalones, but I think people get the most out of them if they start at the beginning and just see all this stuff developing, because there's this huge arc throughout the entire series of the kind of the growing tension and the evil and the threats and how that's developing.
Okay. Well, I definitely love a series. I'm a serious girl. I'm with you. So I've read 15 of those Black Dagger Brotherhood books.
Exactly.
I'm a long haul series girl.
Yeah,
so
and those are not like short books either. So you have to really commit to that series.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody out there listening, get on at the beginning of this ride because that's what I would do. Yeah. I would start from the beginning. Absolutely.
I think it definitely works best that way. But, as I said, I think people also enjoy it just popping in for one of the books.
Well, since this is, paranormal romance, we have to talk about the heat level. We have to. Sure. So on a scale of 1 to 10, like 1 being, I don't know, let's hold hands, and 10 being borderline erotica, where do you think your series falls?
It depends. I tell you what, it depends a little bit on the particular hero and heroine, because I try to play it off of what would be appropriate for them. So like, say, book 1, Legacy of Lies, is probably a 6 to 7. Mm-hmm. Book 2 is more pushing up to an 8, maybe even plus. It gets a little edgy. And then 3 and 4 are kind of in that 7.5, 8 range. So I do throw in some pretty toasty scenarios. But like, nobody's going to have like a hip dislocated. It's not that crazy.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I mean, no one wants to, be limping around for
no ER visits after the sex. Like, that's a little over the line for me.
Okay, good. That's good. Blood and all that's just a little too much. So good news. So can you tell me a little bit about, like, I know we talked a little bit about the characters, but is this kind of like a sibling story since it's families? Is that how they're all connected?
Yeah. So the Taggart family is 4 siblings, 3 guys and a gal. And the first book is about the second oldest brother, Garrison. And he has just really been through the ringer. He has sole custody of his son. His wife left him a couple of years ago. You'll find out how that relates to the neighboring ranch later. He just has gotten just sort of beat up. Another brother left, and so he's out of the picture. Garrison doesn't have a lot of help. And his younger brother had been wounded in war, and so he's not 100%, and now all this bad stuff's happening at the ranch, and it is a lot to kind of have to hang on to. And he is really struggling, and he doesn't like to ask for help, and so that is a big problem that he needs to work on.
Mm-hmm. So is he kind of like alpha male, like typical alpha male, or is he a little bit more complex?
He really doesn't want to be. Like, he's been thrust into the sort of the oldest brother role, even though his oldest brother is out of the picture right now. So he's had to kind of step up and take that on, and it's just a lot of responsibility, and he's not digging it. But when it comes to his woman, he becomes alpha in a hurry because he realizes he's got a real good thing going, and luckily he figures it out before he pulls a boneheaded move.
Uh-oh. Okay, so since he's like turning alpha when it comes to his significant other, is she also alpha? I love strong heroines. I love when the leading women are equally as strong as the men. How does she fare?
Yeah, so Sarah Lopez is a school teacher in town, and you bet she can hold her own, but she's also a little bit wounded too. And so, as I said earlier, I like that theme of everybody stronger together. And so you watch as these characters come together, and then they both become stronger individually and stronger as a unit, and both in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom. And I like to see that progression for both, where they kind of build each other up, even through the trials that they go through.
Oh, yeah. That definitely makes it a dynamic type of environment. I like that, it's evolving. So they're not instantly, bam, we're all that in a bag of chips and we're just a power couple. You have to get there, earn it.
Right. Well, and it's really interesting because, you're right. They have to earn it, but I think they really had to work at it too, because there were a lot of reasons why it was not going to work. It would never work. And they had to sort of overcome all of that. And then even more, like, awful stuff, which I can't tell you about because that would be a spoiler, to finally get to that point where they decided that they would sacrifice sort of everything to be together.
Wow. Well, it's going to be one of those power couple things where you're just fawning all over them. I can tell already.
I hope so.
Awesome. So, you've told me a little bit about the different characters, but which one do you think was your favorite to write?
So in the Taggart family, the first book is about Garrison Taggart, who's the second oldest. The second book is about Shelby, who is the baby sister. Third book is about Vaughn, who is that absent brother, prodigal son who returns. And the fourth one, is about the youngest brother, Kerr, who had been injured in Iraq. And so, of those, when I was writing them, I liked each one for sure. Like, But I have to say, like, the most tortured one of all of them is actually the third one, and that's Vaughn. And the stuff he has to overcome is staggering. And it was it was sort of a gut wrencher to even write some of the stuff he was going through. And for me, I wouldn't mind hanging out with a guy like Vaughn once he got his stuff together. So that was kind of fun.
Wow. So did you do a disclaimer? This is not you. This is
yeah. I almost feel like I need to do a disclaimer on all of them, and I would never be nearly as cool as any of the characters in my book. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me some of the challenges you might have come across while writing this series and bringing it to life. Did you have any difficulties?
For me, the main difficulty is just time management. So, what I have started doing is a technique called fast drafting. And so what'll happen is I will create the story, create the characters. I do like these 10-page interviews with the characters and this massive outline and really get everything laid out. And when I do get the time off, it's usually in a block of about 4 or 5 days, I'll have some time off. That's when I get the first draft written. And I can usually pull out a full draft in 3.5 days was my fastest, but usually 4 to 5 days, I can get it on paper or on the computer. And that's always my challenge is getting that time carved out, knowing that it's coming, getting everything ready and prepped for it, and then just putting it down. And so this series was no different.
What about research and getting into these characters' minds? Was that a breeze for you, or did you have to do some digging there?
I always do digging in the form of interviews. I interview, sort of get in character, and I interview each one, and it's like 10 pages of questions, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And then for this series, I contacted several hunting guide services in Wyoming, asked them random questions. And then, for book 3, which was Vaughn's book, he happens to be an MMA fighter. And so I got hold of a lady who was a fight promoter out in Western Wyoming who was very informative as far as how the fights run, how they're set up, and also their use of physicians ringside, because that comes into the third book. So these poor people, I'm just like randomly emailing them and asking them these questions, but they were really pleasant to give me good information.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That must make it really easy where people are, willing to help you out, even though you're asking some unusual maybe questions or they're,
Yeah. I mean, once in a while I'll email and I will get radio silence because I'm sure they think it's spam or phishing or something. But yeah, for the most part, these guys have been really helpful.
Oh, very cool. So obviously this part of the series is 4 books long, or is it longer?
4 books long is what's completed. So I actually have everything is done.
Okay.
Books 3 and 4 are under consideration right now, and we'll see how that goes. And I love it because I know what's going to happen at the end. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And well, the other fun part too was because of the way I had written, so I always tend to do things ahead of time because I think I might be just a little OCD. So I had everything drafted except for the last book, which was outlined when the first book came out. And the reader feedback I got on that first book, I was able to use in the next 3. And same thing happened when the second book, Legacy Lost, came out. There were readers calling, sending me messages and asking questions like, what about this? I don't understand that. I hope we're going to find out about this. And I would use those and be like, oh, I should make sure that that's clear. And then I would add it into the next book or the one after it. And the reader feedback was awesome on this series. And it was really fun to be able to make sure that I did answer their questions by the end of the series.
That's nice. People always like a nice, tight, everything's tied off at the end.
Yeah.
There's no open questions, especially if there's nothing more after, right? That's
right. Yeah. So I've left the door a tiny, tiny bit open for a spinoff into Montana, but that would really be very standalone. And I'll just kind of see how things go with this one. I'm also working on another series right now too that's more romantic suspense, and so it'll depend on which direction I end up going at the end of everything.
Okay. So should the fans of this series expect a happily ever after when it's all said and done?
Yes. I don't like to write books that don't have a happily ever after. But as I said, there's bruises and injuries and some, emotional wounds and all kinds of stuff. Like, you're never the same at the end. And it's coming out like you went through sort of a battle or a struggle, but you're always better on the other end of it.
Nice. So you mentioned you're working on a romance series. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
I can share a little bit on it. It's the series focuses on the Ghost Squad. The Ghost Squad is an ex-Green Beret group who were the subjects of a top secret military experiment gone horribly wrong. And basically they have turned into super soldiers. But the problem is they're also ticking time bombs, the way that this virus acts in their system. On the flip side of it, to begin the series, is an organization called Fallen Comrade. And Fallen Comrades is a veterans charity, and I use charity in quotes because the CEO is actually siphoning all the money away from the vets into his pocket, and he's doing some stuff with bad things like Russian cartels and drugs. So a woman whose brother had died after being a spokesperson for Fallen Comrade ends up being our first heroine, and she is in big time danger because she has figured out the secrets of this organization, and the CFO is evil and he's after her. And so it's pitting these really messed up super alpha military guys who are essentially underground and hiding stateside with this woman whose brother had ties to the Ghost Squad, and helping her get through this horrible situation. And oh, by the way, she's 35 weeks pregnant. And it was a heck of a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure, like, in this book, I have one thing that has never ever occurred in any novel I've ever read, and I can't tell you anything else but that.
Okay.
So I have it on good authority. This has never occurred before. So if you ever end up reading it later, if it goes to print, I'll see if you can find the thing that never occurred.
Okay. Well, it definitely sounds very interesting. So I hope it does go to print. That sounds really fascinating to me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to work on. So, and obviously that's more of the work in progress right now, but yeah, a lot of fun.
Very cool. So, there are always writers in the audience. Do you have any sage advice for aspiring writers?
I certainly don't feel like a sage when it comes to writing. I'm actually much more comfortable on the medical side, which is really interesting. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like kind of a fairly new author. One thing that's been really helpful for me is going to conferences and workshops and getting as much education as I possibly can. And I tend to go to the Emerald City Writers Conference in Seattle every fall, and it's a nice getaway for me from my day life. But also it's a great conference, and they consistently have they have agents and editors there, which is always nice because you can pitch them, but it's also got great educational workshops, and I've learned something new every time I've gone there.
Cool. Yeah, workshops, I've heard that a time or two before. It definitely probably will help you if you're in a funk or you need some direction or just to get feedback, for your story. Definitely groups are always a good thing.
It is, yeah. And you also, you feel like there's some synergy there because there's people in the same boat as you, kind of starting out, and then you look at some of the keynote speakers who are like super successful, and it's like, okay, how did they get there? And you kind of learn from them, and it's a lot of camaraderie. I have enjoyed myself every single year I've gone, and I recommend it for anybody who's writing to pick a regional conference and go to it.
Okay, great advice. So what joined us together today is Russ City.
Yes.
So is this your first time going to Rust City?
Yeah, that's going to be my first time at Rust City.
Okay. So are you going to bring some books for the signing? Are you going to be signing books?
Yep. So I do have print copies of all of my books, actually. So I'll bring print copies of those, and then I will make sure that I have some really nice swag. And also, if people just want to chat, I mean, that's the most fun at the conferences for me, is just to say hi to readers and see what they're looking at, what they're interested in, and kind of connecting with them. That when I've done the signings before, I've also done signings up in Seattle. Those have been just really enjoyable, and met some great people through every one I've done so far.
Yeah. Rust City is a small con, and I think that kind of makes it fun and engaging for the authors. So you'll definitely get to get down and, into the nitty gritty with the readers if you want to.
I think that's awesome. And it's tough for writers because we're kind of out by ourselves in front of our computer and, doing what we enjoy doing, but it's a little bit in isolation. And it's nice to have these opportunities to meet up with readers or fans or other authors or industry professionals. Any of that is just nice to make those connections and realize that what you're doing is really fun and cool, but also get that nice energy from people that are around you and enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Are you planning on being a part of any of the panel topics? Are you going to be on the panels, or?
I would absolutely love to. I have not signed up for any yet. I am doing a workshop Saturday morning for the writers on the fast drafting we talked about. So I'll do, I think it's an hour talk, and Lord knows how many people are going to show up at 8:00 in the morning on a Saturday, but I'll be there. So
you'd be surprised,
coffee, right? So hopefully it'll be enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, the more panels, the better. I'm happy to participate in any way anybody wants me to.
Awesome. So have you been to the Metro Detroit area before?
No, I haven't. And I'm going to come from a distance away. I'm pretty secretive on my location, but I'm coming from quite a distance. And so it'll be really exciting to check out Detroit. And it's in Troy, I think, is the conference.
Yes. And that is definitely about 20 minutes north of downtown Detroit. So you could definitely get to downtown pretty easily, see the water, the river, if you want, the Detroit, water walk. I can't remember what they call it right now, which is pretty shameful being that I grew up here.
That's okay. Well, you got put on the spot, so it's all right.
Yeah. But there's tons of cool stuff to do. It's in an area with a great fancy mall and cool restaurants. So I think you'll definitely enjoy it. That's for sure.
I know when I do have the opportunities to go to much bigger cities, I enjoy the city stuff. I'm glad I don't live in a city, but I do enjoy the more diverse restaurants and some of the shopping. So I'm sure I'll take advantage of it while I'm there.
Oh, I hope you do. So outside of Rust City, can readers find you anywhere else during the summer?
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry I don't have it right up in front of me. I'm going to be in Cedar Falls, Iowa in September. And I apologize, I do not have that conference, that book signing right up in front of me. I will probably be at Emerald City in October doing their book sign. They have a reader appreciation event, so it's essentially a book signing. And then it looks like next year there is an event in Toledo in the summer that I will also be doing. So far we've got a few extra things set up.
Very cool. Yes, people know how to find you. And they can also follow you on social media and they'll be alerted. So you guys, all of Jillian's contact info is below. You can find her on Twitter, her website, all that good stuff. You can just click the links and you can find her.
Absolutely. And I do keep that up to date as far as like my where I'm going to be. So I do have those listed on there. And then if you're on my newsletter, you get sneak peeks for the books and also if there's some deals or if I need to have readers do some beta reading. I have secret beta readers that have come out of my newsletter. And so if people enjoy that or if they just want to chat with me, do it. Those are all great ways to get in touch.
Awesome. So one last thing before I let you go. I do this thing called a lightning round. And I think it's Awesome.
Okay. Lord knows what's going to come out of my mouth with no thought put in front of it, but okay, I'll give it a whirl.
That's the point, but it's super easy. It's 60 seconds, 60 questions. Some are book related, some are not. And don't worry, no one ever answers 60 questions. Okay. Nobody.
Oh, well, I take that as a personal challenge, but okay.
Okay. It's all in good fun, and the listeners get to know you a little bit better. So you game?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So I have a timer, so I won't go over.
Okay.
So you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Physical books or ebooks?
Both. Depends on if I'm traveling or not.
Okay. Hero or villain?
Ooh, hero.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Name a book that you've read in one sitting.
In one sitting? The last one I read was one of the Cougar books by Holly Trent. I read it like 2 days ago in about 3 hours. It was excellent.
Vampires or werewolves?
Put the two together and you got me interested.
Ooh. Beer or wine?
Diet Dr. Pepper.
All right. Milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
Milk chocolate.
What's your favorite place to read?
Yeah, I have a little reading room set up and I enjoy sitting in there and reading. Dog
or cat?
Oh, cats, totally. We love our cats. We talk to them all the time.
Oh, cute. Cake or pie?
Whichever one is readily available. We can't have them in the house, and so it's like a special treat.
And we're done. That's 60 seconds.
Oh, man. That's great.
I think you got maybe 10.
That's brutal. It's horrible. I could do better.
Well, it's hard when you ad-lib too. You know, that's the thing, that's eats up your time. So that was fun. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
So do you have any last tidbits you'd like to share before we sign off for the evening?
Check me out on social media or come to one of the cons and say hi. I love to chat with readers and I love to know what stuff they're interested in. I enjoy it if people shoot me messages or emails. If they're reading my books, my email's like all over the place. So it's pretty easy to find. Because it's great to get that feedback. I mean, the reason I do it is because I like making the stories, but also I really enjoy seeing other people enjoy reading the stories as well. I mean, that's the rewarding part for me is seeing people get super enthusiastic or shocked or, excited about the books, and being able to talk with readers is like the best part of this job.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I will see you at Rust City.
Okay. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in and downloading today's episode. If you are enjoying the Book Chat episodes and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. First, you can head on over to iTunes and give a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. You can follow the Shelf Addiction podcast on Spreaker, the only place where you can listen live and get broadcast notifications so that you never miss a live episode. Most importantly, you can share the podcast with friends and family that love books and audiobooks. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.